Reed Richards has always been a character that has fascinated me. On the surface, Reed is nothing more than your typical smart character, but under the surface, you find something much more than a smart guy. You find a character that is more relatable than you may think. Reed Richards comes from California, where he was raised by his father and his mother, who were both successful scientists. Because of their success, they were very wealthy, and thanks to their wealth, Reed was able to use that to learn as much as he possibly could. His mother died at a young age, but his father raised him to not only use his smarts for himself, but for the betterment of the world. He also taught Reed to be brave and never give up what he wants the most, but most importantly, to always follow his heart. Because of these lessons that his father gave him, Reed grew up to be successful, always going after what he wanted, and also listening to his heart, gaining a best friend, Ben Grimm, and also finding the love of his life, Sue Storm, and gaining a little brother, Johnny Storm. And throughout the years, there has been many conflicts that Reed has had, but the biggest one that Reed has always struggled with is these two missions that are constantly at him. One mission is to follow his heart, but the other one is to use his knowledge for the betterment of the world. And there's so many times where Reed has to tone down his smarts, or tone himself down, or back down because he loves his family and he doesn't want to completely isolate himself from them. And there's been many cases where Reed has left his family because they distract him from furthering his studies. But what he studies for and what he does could save hundreds of lives. And one specific story I want to talk about today is where Reed tries to solve everything. Reed Richards has always been one of the smartest minds in the Marvel Universe, and constantly pursued endeavors aimed to making the world a better place. However, Reed's ultimate goal is to solve everything. Reed created a device that allowed him to see alternate worlds, and using this device, he tried to figure out how things could have gone differently, how he could have stopped Civil War from happening entirely, or how he could have stopped the Skrull invasion of Earth. And the way that most of these conflicts could have been avoided is by Reed stepping in and stop playing so passive. After this discovery and looking at hundreds of different alternate universes, Reed comes to the conclusion that everything bad that's happened is his fault. He blames himself for the current state of the world and blames himself for everything. When making this device, he also discovers a group of Reed Richards who also want to solve everything. But he promised Sue that he would destroy the machine and wouldn't use it anymore. But after trying to solve everything by himself, he becomes desperate. And so he decides to go to the Council of Reeds, which is literally just a group of alternate Reed Richards who have created a group to try to solve everything, but not just on their own worlds, but the whole multiverse. So Reed begins to join them on a few missions to see what they do. They created worlds for food to feed starving universes. They stopped stars from exploding to save billions of lives. And on the regular, the Council does amazing things. They're constantly helping the universe and constantly pushing forward technology and science as we know. But there's also a lot of dark things that the Council does. And one specifically is where they stop Dr. Dooms from destroying their worlds. And so what the Council will do is they'll show up, they'll put this thing around Dr. Doom's neck that pretty much makes him brain dead. And what they'll do is that they'll put him in a room with other brain dead Dr. Dooms, and they'll leave them there, just sitting in this dark room. And R. Reed Richards says that this is wrong, and the other ones say, yeah, it is wrong, but unfortunately, it's necessary. Because Dr. Dooms won't stop in any universe, so the only way to stop a Doom is literally just doing this, leaving them brain dead. And Reed is conflicted about everything, because the Council is trying to solve everything, so therefore, are they justified in their choices? Are they justified in their actions? And while Reed is spending time with the Council, he becomes more distant to his family, and Sue notices it greatly, and she tries to talk to Reed about it, but Reed just kind of ignores her, and she's left feeling invalidated. And she tries to talk to him and say, listen, I understand that you're trying to figure things out, but don't forget about us. Reed feels validated because he's trying to solve everything, right? So therefore, he's justified in not being around. While Reed decides whether or not to join the Council, he remembers back to the conversations he has with his father. How his dad said that intelligence was to be used for good and to save people and make the world a better place. So based off the conversations he had with his father, Reed decides to join the council. But before he can, a Celestial breaks through the Council of Reeds, and the reason they do this is they stole one of the Reed Richards' minds and intelligence, leaving him powerless. And they begin to attack the council, so every Reed runs away to their own universe, except for a few that stay back to fight the Celestials. Our Reed runs back to collect weapons for the fight when Sue knocks on the door. Sue says something that actually really interests me in a perspective I never really saw of Reed Richards. Sue explains that Reed has put so much pressure on himself, and that she doesn't really understand it and no one can. The pressure of being the smartest man alive makes him lonely, makes him very isolated, and he sees things that no one else can, and because of that, he feels like he needs to do it all on his own. He is the smartest man alive, and he can do anything. And if he can't, then what is he good for? And Reed has this sense of sadness around his intelligence, this loneliness that no one else can explain. And I think that's the reason why he puts so much pressure on himself, because if he can't solve everything and he's the smartest man alive, then what is he? Reed comes back to the fight with weapons, and because of his weapons, the council is saved. We also learn that our Reed was the only Reed to leave and come back to the fight, showing us once again that our Reed Richards is different from all the others. The council goes after the Celestials, while our Reed stays back and tries to clean up a little bit, and ends up talking to the Reed who got his mind stolen by the Celestials. And that Reed explains that without his intelligence, he has nothing. And our Reed tells him, sure, you have other things, you have your family, you have your friends, you have your own universe, the council isn't everything. And that's when we learn that all the Reeds who are on the council have given up their lives, given up their loved ones for the greater good of the multiverse. And for the Council of Reeds, all of those other things don't matter. What matters most is trying to solve everything. In order to join the Council of Reeds, you must pay that price. You must leave everyone behind. And our Reed refuses and runs back to our universe. He runs home and he remembers what his father told him, that the world is an ugly place, and he will be forced to make decisions that he doesn't want to. But his intelligence is nothing without his heart. And our Reed leaves the room and joins Susan, and decides not to join the council. So what do I like about Reed Richards? What do I like about this character so much? And for me, it's the constant battle over happiness and success. I feel like in my life, I wanted success so bad. I wanted fame, fortune, to help further my mission and help others, but what do I give up in exchange for that? I feel like it's easy for us to work ourselves to the bone in pursuit of success, but at the end of the day, what is it all for? I know people who have spent their whole lives working as hard as they possibly can, achieving incredible things, but the loved ones around them don't see them, and by the end of their life, they realize they missed so much, and they missed out on what makes life worth living, the moments. I think the biggest lesson that Reed Richards teaches me is that ambition without limitations will always lead to self-destruction. Without Reed having his loved ones around him, without Reed having those limitations on his work and how much time he spends on it, he goes crazy. What makes Reed a likable character is how much he genuinely cares about the world and the people. He understands the weight of his own actions, so therefore, whatever he is doing, whatever he is trying to solve, whatever he's working on, he has to make sure that it isn't just for his own pleasure and his own success, but because it's helping to further the world and help others. And I think that's the huge part about Reed Richards that I found to be enjoyable, is his constant want for furthering the world, protecting the world, making sure that everyone can live in a safe environment and grow and be happy and be okay. There are so many stories and moments where Reed feels disconnected from the world because of his pursuit of bigger goals. But in those times, he loses his family. And the storyline that goes to my mind is The Maker, who is an alternate version of Reed Richards, who didn't have such a loving family growing up, and abandoned his loved ones in order to pursue what he thought the world should look like. He lost his humanity, And because of that, he really never had the restraint. And at one point, he had the same ideals as R. Reed Richards. But over time, he found that compassion for others to be a limiter on what he could do. So instead of creating things for the betterment of the world and others, he only did it to please himself and to find his own limits. He lost the goal that involved others. He improved everything around him and made things the way he thought they should work, and it led to destruction. I would also like to say that the maker isn't even the smartest Reed Richards. He's just the most reckless. Because of his lack of humanity and understanding for his emotions, he lacks the understanding of humanity, which often leads to his own downfall. What Reed Richards, what Mr. Fantastic shows me is that our goals and our dreams and our passions are good. But without self-control, without people around us, without these small moments that make life worth living, then what are we all doing this for? And if we lose those moments, then aren't we just losing the whole point of us doing anything? Why even have those goals? The reason I have goals, the reason I do the things I do is for my family, for my friends, for you, and for me. And just like Reed, we can't allow this pressure, this anxiety to hold us captive and believe that we have to solve everything by ourselves. Because in all reality, you can't solve everything. You can't be the solution to everything, to other people's problems, to your family. You can't be that solution. But what you can do is work hard and do it for others. Do it for yourself. But never lose sight of the small, beautiful moments that we have in life. And Reed Richards has slowly grown on me over the past couple years. And really, I think he's one of Marvel's most beautiful characters. Thanks for watching, everyone.